2, 1.
Welcome to Made for More Living.
One small step for man.
With Johnny Jennings.
Kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy.
The fastest and most exciting hour of news, events, and real estate in Northern California.
And this is a fact that was proved.
Powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Get ready. Here we go.
Something I have always wanted to do is write a book. I've always been super impressed by people who do that. Matt, have you ever wanted to write a book?
Absolutely not. I barely want to read a book.
Are you serious? You're not a reader?
No, I mean, I would enjoy it. I just have a busy life with kids and everything. It's hard to get some I actually, to be honest, I read all the time. I read books to my kids every single night.
Well, there you go.
And you got to do the characters and the voices and all that kind of good stuff.
Oh, you do the voices?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I did Elmo and Grover last night.
All right, let's hear
two voices.
Let's hear your Elmo. Let's hear your Elmo.
Oh, gosh, putting me on the spot. Hi, kids.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. It can get better. Hi, Johnny. Hi, Johnny.
Oh, yeah, that's creeping me out a little bit. Let's hear Grover.
Oh, Grover's easy.
Grover here on the Johnny and Jenny Show.
Did I say Johnny and Jenny?
You did.
On the Johnny Jennings Show.
There you go.
Wow.
You have a gift.
We just lost all of our listeners just like that.
No, we didn't. They're
What
probably,
the heck are we listening
They're
to?
laughing. So in the studio today, Chad Francis with Thrive Stewardship Financial Advisors has written a book, but not a comic book, like a legit, real book.
How many pages? That's my first question.
Oh, good question.
It's 1,000 pages,
No
so
way,
buckle up. It's going to be a nightmare.
Baloney.
150 pages.
Oh, see, that's super thin. That's like, you can read that going to bed.
Yep. And that was the big
150
goal, too.
And like half of it is illustrations.
Yeah, how many pictures? How many pictures are in the book?
There's
got
only
a 5-page
one picture.
introduction.
Only one picture?
And the picture's a graph. It's not even a fun picture, so
Oh,
get the
man.
comic book idea gone. But no, there's 150 pages of content. And the whole idea was that, let's make it easily digestible so you can go through on a weekend, sit down, knock out the book, get the content, and then take those next steps.
Wonderful. And so when you were coming, like you mentioned you wanted to keep it small and digestible, did you have in your mind like 150 pages, or did you have to trim it down, or did you have to expand it out? Like, talk to me about how you came up with the length.
Sure. The length was not the biggest concern. It was really about the content and the structure. And so it was coming up with my team and figuring out what we wanted to have put into the book and what was going to be helpful for people. And so coming up with the ideas, coming up with the content, and breaking it out into chapters, looking at those chapters and breaking it out into topics. And really, then once we got going with all of that content and putting the book together, then it started looking like, it's going to shape out to about 150 pages. That was never an end goal, though.
See, it just reminds me of writing papers in college. Like, they had to be 7 pages long, 10 pages long, 15 pages long. And so it was always so hard. And so when you tell me that your book is 150 pages long, I just get like stressed out, start sweating bullets, because like, how am I going to come up with that much content?
Sure.
But you've been doing this for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if it's in your wheelhouse, you could write 150 pages on real estate.
I've never done it. So
You use a lot of examples. You tell stories. You don't just provide the facts, because obviously if it's 150 pages of facts, it's like I remember doing my master's at Jessup, writing on the topic. You don't just provide the information, you provide support materials, and oftentimes that can be stories, examples, so it's easy once you get started. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially once you're starting to talk about what you're passionate about or what you're knowledgeable about, it comes very natural. You're not trying to put together a 10-page paper on something that bores you and it's a school topic. Not that school is boring, but it's something that you love and you care about. It does come a lot easier.
That makes sense. So what is the book about?
Sure. So the title of the book is The Generosity Blueprint. It's a faith-based guide for wealth management and impactful generosity.
Love that. Generosity Blueprint. How'd you come up with that idea?
Again, something that my team and I were working on together, and so I had a lot of help in that name, but I knew the direction we wanted to go in. And one day we were sitting down and everyone came together and said, okay, let's take everyone's ideas and examples. We came up with 41 different working titles for the book.
Wow.
And had to whittle it down from there. And so this one wasn't even my first pick and my first idea, but one of the team members said, here's something that I have, here's something that someone else had, and we blended the ideas to get to that final name of the Generosity Blueprint.
Love that name. That's a super great name. And so what's the book about? Like who should read this book?
Yeah, so it does take a very Christian perspective. So it's a faith-based guide, but it walks through money management, wealth management, how to build wealth, and the purpose behind all of that. So what we're ultimately hoping for is to get to people's hearts that everything they do, and they start going through finance and learning how to budget, why they should get out of debt, building wealth, and why they should want to build wealth, it goes beyond their own hearts. So it's not just for them, but it's for their families, it's to impact their community, and ultimately it's reflecting the heart of God. And we want that to be an intentional, multi-step process for them to ultimately be more impactful givers.
More impactful givers. So when I know you covered a lot of things of who it's for and how they can give to their community. But again, born and raised in the church, I'm a Christian. But when I hear giving, I can't help but think tithe or the church asking me for money.
Sure.
Like how do you cover that at all in the book, or
absolutely cover that?
What does that look like?
Covering from the start of the book, from where struggles are today with culture. We are living in a time where things are so incredibly expensive and we're still dealing with inflation. The idea of giving can be really hard for some people. And it stretches further than that to an educational point. A lot of people aren't taught how to manage money and how to handle their finances in high school, after high school. And so the thought of even trying to give, for a lot of people, while it might weigh on their heart, it might be a desire, it seems like an impossibility. They're just not there. They don't have that. They don't have the means to do that.
It's more like an aspirational type of a thing.
Yeah.
Or they're just scared. They're afraid about the what ifs. Well, what if this happens? Well, what if this happens?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a great thing that I interviewed a handful of pastors, and that was one thing that they had talked about as well, is that fear of, and they gave me a real life example of when they were younger. If I gave, this is money that I then do not have to potentially feed my children.
Yeah.
It's $1 that's not in my pocket, therefore it's $1 I can't use. And so it's really tackling those struggles to help people overcome those hurdles that if giving is on their heart, here's practical steps to take, starting small, working your way up, working through a budget, getting your money in order, and building wealth so that over time, you're not just giving out of your income, your paycheck, you're giving out of the wealth bucket you've created.
And I've talked to a lot of people, because I'm a Christian as well, and a lot of people who've decided, I'm going to take that leap of faith. For me, it's a risk, it's scary, and never have they regretted doing that, taking that 10% or whatever they choose to give to their local church or ministries or whatever nonprofit organizations. They've never regretted doing it or run into a situation where they're just missing that 10%.
I feel like I made a mistake.
Have you never run into that?
I've never experienced that either. So you mentioned it is a faith-based book, but anybody could benefit from this, right? Whether you are from a different faith or you don't have a faith, you can still benefit from the teachings and the principles that you outline in the book.
Absolutely. There's different perspectives that are taken throughout the book, and a lot of it has to do with the growth of oneself, the growth of one's family, the growth of a community. The Christian perspective and incorporation of God in that conversation is just one area. But that does not negate the value of the financial lessons that are inside that book as well.
Absolutely. So I don't care what your religion is, what your political affiliation is, but when somebody is speaking truth, right, that crosses cultural lines, it crosses all these different lines. So if somebody's speaking financial truths, like regardless of where you are at religiously, it would make sense why this would resonate and be helpful to them.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
It's whether you're red, whether you're blue, whether you're here, whether you're there. If you have a heart for giving, if you have a heart for other people, if you have what you would call a heart full of love, then there's something that's in there for you.
Because I think everyone, no matter what your status is, no matter if you're a multimillionaire or you're making minimum wage, I think we all have this desire to have purpose.
Yes.
You know, just like the name of your company, Johnny, Made for More.
Yep.
I think we all have the desire that our money go beyond just providing for our basic needs, which is important, especially if you have a family. That is an important goal, mission, calling that you have on your life. But also, I think we all have a inner drive to, I want to do something. And that goes for our money as well.
And this is something I notice with clients, people who are selling their homes and they are in their sunset years. A lot of them are very legacy focused. Like a lot of, hey, I want to give back. I want to make sure I left the world better than I found it. I want to make sure there's an inheritance for family members. But you don't have to wait till you're, on your deathbed to start planning that.
Right.
Absolutely. And that sounds like that's kind of, or to start giving back. Like in the book, you go over ways that people can give, regardless of if you're working a minimum wage job or you're making millions of dollars a year, right?
Correct. So one of the chapters specifically focuses on non-financial giving. Generosity is a posture. It's who you are as a person. It's who God made you to be. It's not just that you're giving money, but it's also giving of your time, giving of your talents. It's a way that you share your treasure, all of your treasures, not just the dollars portion of that.
Real quick, what's the name of the book?
It is The Generosity Blueprint.
The Generosity Blueprint. And is it available on Amazon, or where can they get it? Is it available yet?
It is going to be available on Amazon very shortly.
Okay.
And so for folks that are getting plugged into that, if they're looking for that, I would say, sure, start there. The best place to go might be to our website, thrivestewardship.com. We're happy to get you plugged in on our mailing list, send you a coupon, get you a discount on the book as well.
The Generosity Blueprint.
Correct.
Love it.
So is there a quote in there about, do you have any examples from the book about giving?
Yeah. And I think that when we go back to giving financially, there's something to say about when one gives $1. It is something that can be replicated. If I give $1, I don't have that dollar, but I can go out today and I can go to work and I can make another $1. Great. Something that you're giving of, like your time, if you're volunteering, if you're spending time with other people in need. Time is a precious resource. That's not something you can create more of.
I can't get my Saturday back. It's
Exactly.
gone. Yeah.
You go through your calculation and you think, how many years do I have left on the planet? How many months is that? How many hours is that? There's a finite measure to your time. It is precious. And so when you're able to go beyond yourself and you can give of your time to other people, I think it's so valuable, because giving time to others says that you're worth something I can never get back.
Yeah. So in talking about generosity, we're not just talking strictly financial.
Yeah.
Right.
We're talking beyond the finances, and finances is just one aspect of that. And even though it's a struggle and even though it's hard, for many, giving financially can be the easiest first step, because it can be easier to give $5. It can be easier to help someone that's in need, that is hungry. It is harder to maybe give them an hour of your time in this increasingly busy world.
So I have a friend recently who was coming back over the pass, down 80 over Truckee, past Truckee, pulled into the gas station for a pit stop, and he comes out and there's this lady, and she is like stressed out. Her car's kind of banged up, and the tire's flat. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, like she needs help, right?" Obviously, he goes over to her, tries talking with her. She doesn't speak any English. He doesn't speak her language, and he's like, "I just don't have time for this. I'm late for an appointment already. What am I going to do?" But he just heard that little small voice, like, help this person, like, do what you can. There's something you can do. Figure it out. Take the extra time. And so what he ended up doing was he pulled a couple $100 out of his wallet and walked across the parking lot and saw the student, a big, jacked up, lifted 4x4. And he goes, "If there's anybody around here that knows how to change a tire, it's the person that's driving that vehicle."
Right.
And so he walked over to him and he's like, "Hey, here's $200 if you're willing to help her change your tire. Can you help her with that?" And he's like, "Yeah, absolutely." And the guy was very excited about the money. Like, you could tell that maybe there was something else going on in his life where $200 was potentially life-changing for him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
And so by my friend taking the time and figuring this out. Yes, he threw some money at it. He didn't crawl under and lay down the snow and the ice and change the tire, but he took the time and he was generous. One, he noticed it. How many times do we walk past and
That's
go,
true.
they'll figure
Good
it out?
point.
One, he noticed it. Two, he took the time to try to figure out a solution to the problem. So that woman got her tire changed, and somebody else potentially received some money that they really needed.
Right.
You know?
And look at that chain reaction. He went out of his way to do something because he felt called to do it. He felt something inside of him. He financially helped another person in that parking lot who could use the money.
Yeah.
He then got to have a gift of giving of his time to that woman that was in need. So not only did he walk away with $200, he now has that feeling in his heart that we all feel when we do something selfless.
Correct. And who knows how far out that's going to ripple.
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
she has her car back on the road, and who knows where she was going. She
Yeah.
might have been on her way to go help someone else.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. So when we come back, we will talk about more about what's in this book specifically, because you and I I've been following your journey as you've been writing the book, and it seems very similar to a book by Dave Ramsey, but you're going to share about why it is more than just that book, more than a Total Money Makeover. Back after this.
Well, guys, the real estate bar has been raised. Clients today expect more help navigating a difficult sale fast. That's why we highly recommend Johnny Jennings and his team at Made for More Realty. For instance, they helped out Alice. She needed to sell her mother's home, but didn't want to deal with showings and open houses. Johnny Jennings and his team at Made for More Realty were able to get her an incredible as-is offer off market in 2 days. The sale was quick, discreet, and very easy for Alice. And you know, they can do the same for you. That's why, holy cow, they have over 930 5-star Google reviews. They've been number one in Roseville for the past 3 years. Did you know you can get at least 3 cash offers on your home in as-is condition, just like they did for Alice? Just reach out to Johnny Jennings and his team at Made for More Realty, because you expect more, so get more. Just Google Made for More Realty today and get more for your home. License number 1982-171.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So we're back on the radio show, this podcast with Chad Francis with Thrive Stewardship Financial Advisors. And he has recently written a book on the generosity blueprint. And so I figured, hey, what better time for me to start being more generous than on this show? And so for a long time, I've been trying to come up with a way, Chad, to provide like a gift, like do something. I don't want to even say generous because it's not that generous, but it's just like, hey, thank you for taking the time to drive down to Sacramento, go up to the 5th story of this building and record a radio show with me. And so here, let me grab it for you.
I'm just happy to be here, man. Thank you. Well, thank you.
I heard of some kind of a jar.
Go ahead, open it up.
Could be a food product, could be cologne. It's small. It is, drum roll.
$5,000. You should.
Yeah, right. A gold bullion.
Made for More coffee cup.
So we have discussed this mug. Can I have a look at it?
Absolutely.
So I know he wanted to do some type of mug with a gold handle.
You got it.
You've accomplished that. And the logo. I'm looking around. I don't see John Wayne's mug.
I know you want to put John Wayne's.
John Wayne.
So I don't know. So for those of you who are listening, and I don't know if you're aware of this, Chad, but the whole idea behind the coffee cup was John Wayne, after he would film a movie, he'd give the set and the cast and crew a gold-handled mug to commemorate the filming of that picture. And when I heard about that, I was like, you know what? Whether somebody's drinking water, coffee, tea, whatever, they need something to put it in. I'm going to give them a gold-handled mug.
I love it.
So that's the story behind the mug. So.
And
Thank
we
you
were
very
supposed
much.
to put John Wayne on there. So
That was
really
Matt's idea. Matt's
I
idea.
will say, though, the gold handle does make it stand out. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I'm not a big mug
You can put your
person.
apple cider vinegar in that.
Woof,
But-
a whole cup of apple cider.
It's good for you. It's healthy. It helps your gut. But I don't know. It's just me. I thought putting John Wayne's picture on that, and it's not trademarked. You're not selling it. But I think it'd be fun. Anyways,
Okay, maybe.
Or there was discussion about putting Johnny Jennings' mug on it, and then people would probably just toss it.
They would toss it,
Nobody
yeah.
would drink out of that thing.
Landfills.
Johnny
full of
Jennings,
golden-
but dressed as the Duke. You got to put on
Yeah,
the.
There you
dressed as John Wayne. You got to have some kind of cowboy hat,
Yeah.
right? A cigar
man.
in your mouth.
There, I
Yeah.
can do the cigar for sure.
Put a bacon on a biscuit and let's go. We're burning daylight.
Burning daylight. Man, my 3-year-old says that every day. Burning daylight's the cutest thing. But hey, so we're in the studio with Chad and talking about generosity because you came out with this book, or it's coming out. Do you have a date, a tentative date for when people can expect it?
There is a date that is coming, and every day we're trying to push it up sooner. So I can't have a finite date on it. I'm hoping it's going to be mid-January, and we're already 1 week in.
Yeah.
By the time this airs, who knows? We might already have that book launched.
Perfect. Okay. So if you're listening to this show, if it's whether live or recording, please just go to where do they go to find the book?
It's going to be available on Amazon via paperback, Kindle, or a digital PDF, or get plugged in at thrivestewardship.com, join our newsletter, or email the team because we're happy to send out some promotional items, get you some coupons, plug you into the flash sale where it's going to be on a super discount, whatever we can do to help.
And there will be an audio version of this book, correct?
Correct.
See,
Are you serious?
Yep.
Of course. Every book that comes out, you have to have an audio version.
That was going to be my question for Chad, because I was like, are you going to read it? Or
they are having me read the audio version of the book so that the folks that I already work with, that know me, that know my voice, they get to hear me read the book aloud to them. And I said, all right, let's go. I'm going to read a 150-page book in one sitting.
I'm so jealous right now.
You have a very soothing voice. You
Yeah.
just got to be careful you don't put people to sleep. It's nice. I like it. I enjoy your voice. It's very soothing.
I appreciate that because that's that phenomenon where you hear your own voicemail recording and you go, oh man, that's my voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Matt's being very generous right now.
Appreciate it.
You're complimenting your voice. Yeah. But hey, so we're talking about the book. You've been working on this for a while. There's a lot of canons of like Dave Ramsey type teachings in there.
Yes.
But this isn't like Total Money Makeover, the sequel. This is, instead of me just guessing, how about you explain? Like if people have read Total Money Makeover, how would they benefit from this book?
Sure. So let's backpedal even. The
Sure.
Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey, several years old at this point, but it is a wonderful step-by-step approach for how to handle money. And
Isn't it like 100 different recipes on how to cook rice and beans? That's what I thought it was.
Rice and beans, beans and rice.
That's how you get out of debt. You got to go on that simple diet.
That's all I hear about that book. It's just rice and beans until you get out of debt.
And cutting your credit cards up.
And so he takes an approach, and a lot of it is also how I take an approach of biblical personal finance. A lot of the lessons that he incorporates, a lot of the lessons that I incorporate, we have that in common because we took them from the Bible. It's what it teaches about throughout, but also specifically in the book of Proverbs. And so you're going to see a lot of commonality there. And I'm even call out Dave Ramsey. I throw out one of his quotes, I give him credit, and I tell the story about how Dave impacted my life personally, how things turned around completely, and I changed directions on both my education, my career, and how I handled my finances. You
mind sharing that story briefly? I haven't heard this story.
Sure. Oh, gosh. Going back into like 2012, 2013.
A few presidents ago.
Yeah, just a little bit. Driving through the Nevada desert back when we really didn't have, MP3 players or our iPhones to plug into our car stereo, or at least at the time I didn't. Listening to the radio because I already burned through all the CDs that I had and didn't care for anymore. And we're just listening to whatever we had. My wife and I, fiance at the time, driving through Nevada, heading to Idaho to go visit family. Nothing was on the radio for a long period of time. So I'm just scanning through stations until finally something came on. And it was the top of the hour for the Dave Ramsey Show, hearing all about how cash was king and debt was dumb.
Right.
And it was the first time I had ever heard that or anything like it.
Really?
Even though I had taken finance classes and I had gone through an educational system that taught all about money, and yet you didn't hear these types of things because, well, this is common sense. And so it was a whole different arena for me, and I was just hooked immediately. Came home, jumped through all of the books, went through the content, started putting on Financial Peace University.
Which you still do, right?
Which I still do.
Wow.
Changing my career course and getting out of mechanical engineering and going more towards finance because it seemed like a better path for me of application of math. I want to get out of this theoretical, we're working in the ninth dimension where things don't make sense.
Yeah.
Let me take something that I can apply real math to and help people. And so for me, that was a no-brainer. Changed what I was doing immediately, got into doing financial advisement, and now not working under, but endorsed by Dave Ramsey as an investment advisor in the Sacramento area.
That's awesome. That's a full circle story right there.
Yeah. And so paying homage to him in the book was, I felt, a requirement, giving him credit of here's how he's impacted my life.
Yeah.
But from the book perspective, where they differ, yes, the Total Money Makeover has the baby steps that teaches you how to get out of debt, why to get out of debt, and what those next steps can look like for building wealth.
Mm-hmm.
I took a little bit different of approach to say we need to incorporate some of those things because they're valuable, the biblical personal finance behind why one gets out of debt, why we should budget, why we should value taking care of our families, but also doing it from a perspective of the goal of intentionality and generosity. So we budget to take control of our money so that we can find margin to not only take care of business, but we have to save, we have to spend, but we should also always be giving.
And that's a good point because, man, it's been a while since I read Total Money Makeover, but from what I can recall, he talks about his baby steps, like, having a slush fund, getting out of debt. But then when it gets into the more investing and then generosity piece, like live like nobody else, so then you can later live and give like nobody else. It's not very. There's not a whole lot of information in that regard, and that's kind of what your book covers, though, right?
We cover more in depth on the generosity side, the connection that we want people to find with God and reflecting the heart of God by being generous people. Mm-hmm. But then there's so many more chapters that go into further details of here's how we build wealth in retirement accounts for our later years. Here's how we build wealth in non-retirement accounts to get up to that point. Here's how we do legacy planning to pass this money down generationally so that our children can continue to be generous with the pile that we have created. All the way through marriage and how marriage should be teamwork and how a good team-working marriage can lead to bigger generosity.
That's super important. Like, some people look at like the numbers, like, hey, this is how much money I have coming in. This is how much money I have going out. Here are my debts, my liabilities, assets, liabilities. But the money is a very emotional thing. Like, when we're dealing with buyers and sellers all the time, there's just something different about when all of a sudden there's large sums of money involved, and people are not communicating on the same frequency. Mm-hmm. So whether you're buying or selling a house, or whether you're planning for retirement, trying to get out of debt, being on the same page as your spouse, and like that can I mean, what is it? Over 50%, I think, of marriages end because of money issues.
Yeah.
And so this isn't necessarily just like a book about money. This is a book also about how to do life with your spouse.
Yeah, and you were really nailing it there. It's if half of marriages end in divorce, and the number one cause of divorce, aside from infidelity, is financial issues, how much more successful can our marriages be, everyone's marriages be, if we get finances in order?
Yep.
And a lot of it just starts with communication and intentionality. It's not going out and working harder and making more money.
Yeah.
It's about being a better manager of what you have directly in front of you that the majority of people fail to do, unfortunately.
Because there's a lot of people, I think in Newport, actually. So Newport, California, wealthy part of the world. Mm-hmm. Their typical divorce rate is in the 70s.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, so it's really high. So having more money maybe isn't necessarily a determinant of a healthy marriage or a happy marriage. But so I don't want listeners to hear, hey, if I make more money, my marriage will be better. But being on the same page with your spouse about money. What are you doing with the money? How are you spending the money? How are you giving them those resources? That is way more important than maybe the overall number.
More money will not make your marriage better. More money will not make you happier. More money will amplify who you already are. And so if you're a bad communicator and if you're not open with your spouse and you're not talking about money and sharing things, more money is not going to help that situation. It's going to amplify the negativity of it. And so having better communication is that starting point. And when you're on the same page with your spouse and you do things together and you're budgeting together and you have common goals together, then yeah, more money would be a blessing. And so it really depends on where you're at today. Don't take that approach of more money is going to fix the problem. You interjecting with intentionality is what's going to fix the problems.
Yep, and being generous, right? And so that goes back to, the whole theme behind the book is being generous. You don't have to have a whole bunch of money to be generous. Generosity, would it be fair to say that generosity is like a condition of the heart, like a perspective, not necessarily something that you physically have, but it's more of a characteristic?
It's who we are as people. We are made to be generous people. And so watch what happens every time you give money. And Matt touched on that before. When you're giving, the joy that you feel. No one has regretted when they gave money. So start small. It doesn't have to be a grand thing of, well, gosh, I can't afford to give $1,000 a month. Then don't start there. Start where your heart leads you. Start where God leads you, and give $5 here and there. When you're at church, put $20 as the bucket passes by and see how that changes the posture of your heart. See how that changes your week. See how that changes your attitude. And let that be the fuel that prompts you to be more and more generous. Not just because you're chasing the good feeling, but because you're now doing what you've been called to do. You're just being and living as a more generous person.
So to provide a personal example of this, like money, quite frankly, terrifies me. There is something about money that is very enticing, and it has it can be used for good or it can be used for evil. It's a tool, but who's holding that tool? How's that tool being used? You can use a knife to kill somebody. You can use a knife to cook up your tri-tip.
That's a great analogy.
That's a grizzly analogy. But so from a young age, what I have done in my life is I have been just absolutely terrified about money. So what I've done is, even when I was in high school, I'd get like $15 a week was my allowance. I would tithe.
Mine was $1.
$1. Well, you were older.
That's right. I'm from a different generation.
You're a different generation. You got $1 and a pack of cigarettes a week. You're from that generation.
That's right.
So, but doing that has, even since high school, and then continuing that habit of giving, whether you have a lot of money or whether you don't have a lot of money, has, I think, protected my heart a little bit more than it would have if I waited to do that. And so if you're wrestling with money, you're having like a negative perspective towards money about, hey, whatever it is, I would encourage you just start giving, because the benefit of giving, aside from whoever it's going to or whoever it's helping or whatever it is, the giving of that super powerful thing called money really does a lot for you personally. And that's been my experience for the last, And
what I
years.
think it applies even to businesses. There's the new workforce, the younger generation. They're looking to work for companies who have that same heart and mentality.
Yeah.
It's great. Okay, you're doing well as a business. You're profitable. But what are you doing to make an impact in the community? How else are you serving people? I want to work for that kind of a company that has a greater purpose. So going back to our purpose, it's not just to accumulate wealth and support and provide for our family. That's true, but there's more to it. When we're, like you said earlier, Johnny, when you're on your deathbed, you look back and you think, well, what did I do with all my money? I need to reprioritize and reorganize. I want to leave a legacy. So what can I do now?
Yeah.
And let's have that perspective much earlier.
And don't wait. So if they want to know more about how they can plan and give and get the ball started sooner rather than later, Chad, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Heading over to thrivestewardship.com, or they can always reach out to us by phone, 916-790-9907. Whatever's easiest for that person. We're happy to plug them in, give them a complimentary consultation, talk to them about finances, point them in the right direction, be a guiding hand, whatever anyone needs.
Awesome. So just go to thrivestewardship.com, reach out to Chad. He can help you. He's the guy I trust, and I always call him with money questions. But the last thing before we end this segment is, was the book written by AI, or did you actually write it?
The book was not written by AI, and so we had a funny joke about this earlier, and there's a little icon that's now inside of most books, and so I got to don that special little icon. I want to make sure I do not misquote it.
It's genuine, it's authentic. This was written by a real human being.
Yeah, so it has the certification, so it has a little stamp with an H, certified, written by a human.
So written by Chad. There you go. All right. Well, hey, if they want to find that book, just go to thrivestewardship.com. You'll get some great discounts and some other goodies if you go there. Thanks again for being on the show, Chad. Let me know when you use that gold-handled coffee cup.
Well, thank you guys, and I appreciate the mug. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, it's a new year. Maybe you're thinking about a fresh start, moving out of state, or maybe upgrading to someplace bigger, downgrading to something a little bit more manageable. Who can help you with that? Who's going to walk you through it and make sure you have a seamless, simple process and get you the most money for your home? It's, of course, Johnny Jennings and his team at Made for More Realty. There's a reason why, guys, they've been voted #1 in Roseville for the past 3 years, why they have almost 1,000 5-star Google reviews. In fact, they sell homes 27% faster than other homes on the market. You expect more? Get more with Johnny Jennings and his team at Made for More Realty. Just Google Made for More Realty today and get more for your home. License number 1982-171.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So we are back in the studio with Matt B and Chad Francis, and we were talking about the
soon-to-be New York Times best-selling author of The Blueprint of Generosity.
If not
available
New York,
soon at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and all your local book retailers.
Is Barnes & Noble still in business?
Yeah, actually, they just did an interview with the owner of Barnes & Noble, and it's thriving. Some stores are doing better than others, but they're becoming spaces, basically, where people want to hang out. Who doesn't love to go to a bookstore? The prices, obviously, it's tough because they're more expensive than Amazon, but you guys don't enjoy going to a bookstore?
I can't remember the last time I went.
I was shocked that they were still open when I drove by one in Roseville, and I thought, oh, the sign's still up. They must still be there, and the parking lot's full.
They're still there. There's one across the street. Barnes & Noble is still a great space to hang out.
When's the last time you went to a Barnes & Noble?
Probably it's been before Christmas. I'll just say that, before Christmas.
Okay.
They have one over off of Sunrise Boulevard. Great place to take the kids, read books, maybe get one because they're expensive. Anyways, I don't know. Oh, we were going because you're an author. Here's one challenge that I think I face and a lot of other people face when it comes to generosity and giving and donating. There are so many people asking for money these days.
Yep.
There's so many nonprofit organizations. I just got an email literally minutes ago of this person going on a mission trip, and they're asking for money. How many different organizations do you get letters from in the mail? Especially if you give once, then bam, you're on their mailing list, and they are sending you monthly, if not weekly, letters asking for money. You've got, of course, because we have such a huge homeless population in Sacramento, we've got homeless people
unhoused
on intersections. There just seems to be so many people asking for money. It's not reasonable to think you can give to everybody, right?
No.
So I think some people might relate to that. How do you decide who to give to? Because there's so many quote unquote needy organizations, people in need.
Yeah, there's a lot
I
of
give
causes.
to this lady who's asking money for her mission trip.
I have a ton of thoughts on this.
Okay, good.
This is something that I've wrestled with for a long time. But before I give my 2 cents, do you have any thoughts on this, Chad? Or
yeah, and I think it's that emotion that Matt is alluding to of like, how can I ... do all of this, help everyone? And I think that's a bigger task than any one person or any one family is ever going to be able to tackle. We can't handle everything. We cannot save everyone. We cannot save ourselves. This is why we have a Savior in Jesus.
Yep.
And so even thinking that we can save everyone, it's an impossible. But we can do things to help a lot. And so maybe personal discernment about what things are at least closest to my heart. Where do I want to give of my time, of my talents, and of my money? And that discernment can help then direct where you're going to be generous. And just knowing and giving yourself a little grace, you cannot help and save everyone.
So, but if you have a heart like mine, I care about everyone and I want to help everyone. But where do you draw the line?
So how I do it?
How do you decide?
Yeah, so I've put in some serious thought into this, because as you climb the financial ladder, more people reach out to you and you get invited to more things. And not that I'm like anybody special, but I've noticed, when Johnny was a little poor, they don't look to you as a realtor. They look at you as a financial philanthropist that's willing to support everybody. They hope, and I want to help too. But like you said, you can't, like Chad said, you can't help everybody. And so What I've done is I've just come up with things that I'm passionate about and things that I really care about. And if it doesn't fall into that box, then I'm not going to give. And everybody has different things that they're really focused on. And here's like 100% raw and real. Here is a story about how I've lived this out. So when I graduated high school, I had over a 4.0 GPA. I think it was one of the valedictorians or whatever.
Or whatever.
I don't whatever they're called. I don't even remember.
Like student body president or something like that.
No, not saying
Prom
that.
king or
the point
whatever.
Is, I didn't apply to a single college. I did not apply to a single college, which sounds ridiculous for somebody that seems to be academically focused. And the reason why I didn't was because I wanted to go to a place called Hume Lake and attend their program called the Joshua Wilderness Institute. It's this gap year program either for people just graduating high school or maybe have done a couple of years in college and they don't know what they want to do. Go to Joshua, learn some skills, experience some of the world, do some traveling, and learn more about God. And this is something I'd wanted to do since I was 12 or 13 years old. So in my mind, there was no college involved. I was going directly to Joshua, figuring out what's happening after that. While I was in Joshua, everybody has roommates, right? So it's me and another guy, and it's a co-ed program. And so they had all these fun little rules about how you couldn't be even because they didn't want people getting in trouble. So even being one guy, one girl, you couldn't be one guy, one girl.
Oh my gosh! I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah,
this is special Hume Lake language.
Terms. Yeah, these are Hume Lake. She couldn't be even. There's one guy, one girl, two guys, two girls. Once it got to be 3 guys and 3 girls, and that was fine.
Oh my god!
Because they just
Hume Lake math, Hume Lake vocabulary,
Hume Lake math, Hume Lake vocabulary. I mean,
was there like a guidebook, a manual when you come to Hume Lake? This is what this word means. This is how we do math.
There was so much. So like while I was there,
no purple, right? I know that.
No. While I was there, you couldn't listen to music. You couldn't watch television.
Not even Christian music?
You couldn't listen to anything. You could.
Wow.
If it was playing, that was fine, but you couldn't request a song. There was all this to say, it was a fantastic experience. But that year that I went was the first year that they offered a trip to Israel. And that trip to Israel was an extra added on expense from the basic tuition. I don't remember, it was maybe around $5,000, $7,000. So it wasn't an insignificant amount of money. And there was no way I would have those funds. And my parents didn't have the funds. But my godmother ended up giving me that money. It was a gift, very generous gift, and I was able to go now, but my roommate still was not. And somebody, I don't even know who the donor was, but somebody in the 11th hour donated to Joshua funds for him to be able to go. So this is talking about generosity giving. So I'm now able to go off the generosity based on the generosity of somebody else. He's now able to go based on the generosity of somebody else. We got to experience Israel, see it. Highly recommend it if you've not gone before. This is definitely like before you die, like this is something that you want to see. And we came back and we made a promise to each other. My roommate and I made a promise, and that hey, every single year we're going to donate some money to the guys in the room 211. That was our room number, was 211. We're going to donate money to help them go on their Israel trip. And so that was 2007 that I completed the program. So in 2008, to this day, every single year, I have donated some money. It's been as little as like $100, $300 some years. Some years it's been significantly more. But I have consistently given to this organization for nearly 20 years. And the benefit of that is I now have deeper relationships with people in that organization, which was not the purpose. I wasn't trying to buy my way into the Hume hierarchy. But so when you talk about giving and how you can how to determine what you're going to do, I would say before you make any decisions, is this something you're going to want to do long term, and does this align with your beliefs? Because I believe going deep on fewer things is better than going superficial on
interesting.
On many things. And there's a lot of people out there that will give 5%. They give out of their bucket. They'll give 5% here, 10% here, 15% here, and they'll disperse it. It's your money, your rules. I'm not telling you what to do. But when you ask me, like, how do I determine what I'm going to give? I have a bucket of money, and I'm giving a percentage to Hume, and I'm giving a percentage to my church, and those things are going to either have to involve children or pastors. So I've whittled it down to where I'm either supporting children or pastors. And so when it comes to my giving, that's how I approach it. I have if it doesn't fall in those buckets, if I have anything left over from what I'm willing to give to my primary organizations, does it help children and does it help pastors? I'm not saying that's right for everybody, but if you're trying to evaluate, hey, how can I give? Maybe your thing is the SPCA. Maybe your thing is the unhoused. Maybe your thing is, battered women. Figure out what that is that's important to you. And I would go deep on a couple things rather than superficial on a lot, and you'll see way more. You'll see the impact of your giving far more than if you donated less to more.
I like that philosophy. That's good. What do you think?
And if you even want to enhance that enrichment, it's volunteering your time at the places you're also giving. You're giving money. Serve there for a few hours a month if you can, and watch where your dollars are going. Because it's going to greatly affect your heart when you also you volunteer at the ASPCA because you're also giving, and so you're there a few hours, also working with the animals and trying to help the adoption programs. It's going to greatly impact your heart.
Yeah. And I've always said that because obviously here in the greater Sacramento, we have a severe homeless crisis situation. And we have a great organization called the Union Gospel Mission that's downtown. They have actual programs. It's not a handout. They do meals every single day for people off the street. You got to come in, you got to hear a message. There's worship and a message before you get that meal. But they also have an intensive program where they bring people off the street and they house them and they go through all this program to rehabilitate them. So you can donate your money to the Union Gospel Mission. You can also go volunteer there and help out, which I think, like you've been saying, is much more meaningful, much more impactful than just handing somebody $5 off the freeway. Go in there, get involved, actually change these guys' lives, but by supporting an organization that's doing real work.
So when you talk about the $5 off the freeway, it kind of reminds me of my friend who gave some money to help the lady change her tire, which we referenced earlier. I'm not saying don't listen. There's a whole lot of the Holy Spirit and listening to that small voice inside of you. And if you're feeling nudged in a certain direction, I would lean into that. But as far as feeling overwhelmed, where do I put my money? Where do I give? Set up some ground rules. Talk it over with your spouse and figure out what's important to the two of you, and then do it together. So that way, it's not she's giving here, I'm giving here. If you're doing it together, that's another benefit. So I didn't know Valerie in 2008. I didn't meet her till 2010. But now she and I, for almost 2 decades, have been giving together to Hume Lake, and that has been an added benefit in the giving is that we're doing it together. So,
if you like to give to Hume Lake, their website is.
Yeah.
No. But I can see you going back there and being a camp counselor for your kids. Wouldn't that be cool to go back there as your kids get old enough?
That would be a full circle.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Then you can go on a trip to Israel with them.
But talking about Chad, getting involved, Valerie and I have been involved in boards and stuff, and we have committed time to giving to Hume. But again, it doesn't have to just be money. But so if you're going to give your time, focus on a few things and go deep. If you're going to give your money, focus on a few things and go deep. That's my perspective. If you want to have a conversation about that, you can reach out to me anytime at Thrive Stewardship. No, I'm just kidding. At Chad's website.
Johnny will take your calls.
Johnny will take your calls at Thrive. So anyways, when we come back, we're going to be talking about some real estate, because this is a real estate show. And we're talking about, should you buy a fixer?
Well, guys, the real estate bar has been raised. Clients today expect more help navigating a difficult sale fast. That's why we highly recommend Johnny Jennings and his team at Made for More Realty. For instance, they helped out Alice. She needed to sell her mother's home, but didn't want to deal with showings and open houses. Johnny Jennings and his team at Made for More Realty were able to get her an incredible as-is offer off market in 2 days. The sale was quick, discreet, and very easy for Alice. And they can do the same for you. That's why, holy cow, they have over 930 5-star Google reviews. They've been #1 in Roseville for the past 3 years. Did you know you can get at least 3 cash offers on your home in as-is condition, just like they did for Alice? Just reach out to Johnny Jennings and his team at Made for More Realty, because you expect more, so get more. Just Google Made for More Realty today and get more for your home. License number 1982-171.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So we are back, and we're talking about, should you buy a fixer? If you're thinking about purchasing a home and maybe, the budget's a little tight and you can't afford the fixed up home that you're dreaming of, doesn't make sense to go in, buy a home that's maybe in a state of disrepair, fix it up yourself, and live in it. And before we get into like some details on that, I just want to make, Valerie and I were in the car the other day. We're driving down the road, and we were having a conversation about this. And I can't remember what it was. The home seller fixed a water heater or something. And they said, hey, now my home's worth more because I fixed the water heater, or I put a new AC unit and I fixed the AC unit. And it's like, I get it. That's a lot of money. This isn't an insignificant amount of money putting in a new AC condenser, like some 5, 10, 15 grand, depending on the situation. But that doesn't necessarily increase the value of your home by $15,000 just because it costs $15,000. If your AC goes out in your car and then you go to sell the car, right, after fixing that AC, and the AC cost you $2,000, did it increase the value of your home or your car by $2,000? No, it just brought it up to the standard of everybody else who's selling the same model car with a working AC. So what does this have to do with deciding whether or not you should build a fixer? It also plays into, I don't know how many times people have told me, hey, Johnny, I put $40,000 into this house. I sunk $80,000 into this house. If I can't get my money out, I'm not giving the house away. And it's like, well, who said you were going to get your $80,000 back? Who said because you made those repairs, or you put that kitchen in, or because you painted it that, or you put the pool in, or you put the solar on, that you were going to see a dollar for dollar return? When you are investing in your home, when you're making those repairs, you need to be making sure that you are making repairs that are going to be profitable for you. Nobody guaranteed you that just because you put in solar on the property and it cost you $40,000, that now your house is going to be worth $40,000 more. Is this making sense?
Sure. I mean, if your plans are to resell the house, but like Brent Gove said, one of your mentors, if you are struggling to afford a home, there's no problem in buying a fixer-upper. Yeah, you're going to have to put money into it, but that's a home you're going to live in for the foreseeable future, right?
Correct.
You agree?
So I'm just saying, just make sure, just because you're maintaining the home, it has not improved the value of the home. Just because you've sunk money in the house doesn't mean you get a dollar for dollar return.
Right.
What does this have to do with should I buy a fixer? If you're going to buy a fixer, make sure that you can, one, afford to make the repairs, and then make sure that you're prioritizing the upgrades in such a way that you're getting a good return on your investment. Just because you put in, a reverse osmosis for $3,000 doesn't mean your house value went up. It may be important to you, but is it going to be important to the buyer? So when you're focusing on, hey, should I buy a fixer? Should I not? Make sure that, one, you can afford the repairs, and two, that you are actually making repairs and improvements that are going to improve the overall value of your now potentially greatest asset. So with that, if you have any questions, you want to know if buying a fixer is good for you, reach out to us at madeformorerealty.com. That's madeformorerealty.com.